Hey everybody, this review is going to be on a Benchmade Griptilian, which I'm sure you figured out by the title. This one has a tan or sand colored handle, as Benchmade calls it, with a black Tanto non-serrated blade. It used to be hard to find black, not serrated, and Benchmade's is almost like the holy grail of Benchmade's. I opened this one up. Well, first off, the model is a 553 BKSN, so black. Griptilian Tanto. Sand is what the SN is. There she is. After doing, I basically grew up on $1 and $3 Chinese knives from Kmart. Well, if you're in Michigan, I don't even know how big Kmart is. I guess it used to be across the states, but they were really big here because that's where they're headquartered. I grew up getting those at the register, begging my dad for them when I was a kid. Little lockbacks of different sorts. Slip locks, everything, or slip joint, I mean, and they eventually became throwing knives over time as I was young, and I got quite good throwing them, even though they're all different knives. And when I was old enough to move up to my own, first one I bought was a buck cross lock. I love that little thing. It was my first liner lock. It was a tough knife, and I could throw that one really well too, not that it was made for it. And eventually I moved up to Benchmade's, and that's where I loved knives and stayed with them for a long time. Had a large Benchmade collection. I'd go every month, whether I could afford it or not. When the gun show came, I'd buy myself a new Benchmade. And eventually I moved into Emerson's, and although they're great and I'm not knocking them, I didn't like the pivot, or I thought the liner was too thin, and I moved on. And the axis lock kept me coming back to Benchmade's. I was going to buy this one. I did buy this one as a gift for my nephew who just got into the 1st Cavalry, and I was going to present it with him, but it didn't show up in time. Any of you who watched the Contigo video that I just did realize I got him a much better knife. And thank God this thing didn't show up. As much as I love Benchmade's, what a POS this knife is. A good buddy of mine in law enforcement has a Griptilian Tanto. It has a different shape blade than this one. He broke the tip off trying to pry open a door, and I reprofiled it for him. I put a vid up like a year ago doing a little bit of this and that with it, and I love that knife. It's well put together, well made, and strong. This is a sorry example of a Griptilian, sorriest one I've ever seen. It hits both sides of the handles because there's so much flex. Let's see if I can show you. Let me try to make a little better focus. I'm not pushing hard. When I open it, you can hear it. It's rubbing the scale. I'm not pushing hard on that thumb stud. It still flicks open okay. Not that I can show you very well. See how tight this one is though? This is the second sorriest example of an axis lock I've ever seen. Still flips alright, but it's too tight to even move on its own, but yet still has a little blade play and a little, well, not really any up and down. It has some left and right. You guys might say, oh, it's a Griptilian. It's not their best model. It's one of their best selling models. And for $100, it ought to be good. My buddy bought a Kershaw, I think it's a Nerve, for $17. It's 10 times the knife this is. G10 scales, better put together, thick liner, everything about the knife is better. The only thing this knife has on it is a better blade steel, and in my opinion, like the best lock on the market. Past the lock, this knife sucks. I don't know if I can show you, if it'll pick up on the light. Look at the coloration. This is supposed to be one color, right? Let me see if I can turn on any light here, and it'll help. That's not helping. Let me see if I can turn it on here. Alright, and a little focus. Try closer. Look at the different colors in this thing. It said sand, not tiger stripe. What's up with the mold in the mix here? I mean, if they would have listed it this way, I still would have bought it and probably would have been looking forward to seeing how cool it looked. But I was kind of under the impression that it was going to be one color. Black is all black, isn't it? And look at this. It looks like it was kissed by midgets. Not midgets. Like dwarfs? I don't know. Not trying to offend anybody. Tiny little beings of some sort kissed this thing. the quality control on this one is just gone. The edge, although relatively sharp, is not impressive in any way. Not impressive in any way. I had a small Tanto that I did a review on a while back that was pretty much dull out of the box. And I ended up selling it. But this thing, although slightly sharper, for $100 is like the worst Benchmade I ever bought. The blade play, the stickiness, and the lock, you gotta shake it normally. You pull an axis lock out of the way, the thing falls closed and still has no blade play. I don't know. I love the black coating, non-serrated, because it's hard to get. At least it used to be. It's not so hard anymore, I guess. I like the idea of the tan handle. It's not horrible, but I was really looking forward to like a tan handle. This I can get over, but it's just one more thing. It's hitting both sides of the scale. Can't even flip it closed. Come on. It's hitting here, just setting closed. Along here. You think that's bad. Takes very little effort, and it's touching the other side. The other Griptilians I've had and I've seen and I've handled were not like that. You have to mash them or really torque the blade. This one has wiggle, and it's already tight. Locks back, disengaged. Normally, I mean, how much more do I have to tighten it to get rid of the blade wiggle? Then it's not going to open and close. It's a good looking knife. I don't necessarily call discoloration a deal breaker. It's a neat stripe, but the tiny little kisses on it were not by the quality control guy. I'll just say that. If I'd bought it for myself, I'd be returning it quick and getting one that I think is up to par. If I worked at Benchmade, this one wouldn't have made it through quality control. I may be very picky as far as knives go. I have a lot of nice knives. I've owned a lot of nice knives. I've owned a lot of nice Benchmades. This is just above bottom of the barrel. This is, in my opinion, a factory second. Any knife that is loose in the blade and tight in the pivot shouldn't get out the door. Any knife that can hit the scales while closed and the lock engages holding the knife closed without even being smooth with this lock design wouldn't pass. My brother-in-law, he's a federal agent. He doesn't have a decent work knife, and he's a good man. He ended up giving me some toys for my boys that his boys outgrew that were worth a lot of money. Any of you parents out there familiar with Thomas the Train, he gave me like everything ever made for Thomas the Train to add to my boy's collection. The least I can do for him is give him a couple bucks and give him a knife. When he saw that this one didn't make it in time, he asked for it. So it'll be a good knife for him. I don't think it'll see a lot of use. It'll ride in his pocket most of the time, and the lock, while open, is still axis lock strong. I think it'll be perfect. God forbid he has to jab anybody with it. I think it'll work fine there too. All other aspects for a knife nut, like guys who are watching this or myself, this one was not a pass. This one was not a pass. I love the knife. I love Griptilians, but if you guys are looking at the sand one, God, I hope you can get your hands on it and look at it before you get it, because if any the rest of them are like this, stick with the regular black, because there's something wrong with this Griptilian. I hate to make a negative video. I just had like a 3-day love affair with Benchmades again after that Contigo, and this was like a kick in the gonads after seeing that. I was so looking forward to this knife after seeing that Contigo, and this thing's a POS. I may still get myself a Contigo, and I hope it's half as good as the one I gave my nephew, but if not, it'll be going back. Anyways, if you watched it this long and my complaining, thanks, and everybody, thanks for watching and the support. Stay safe.